Hey guys, welcome to Game 3. There are so many stories in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! That just haven't been told. So I wanted to create a series of short interviews with top players and community members to tell these stories. Who are these guys? Why do they play 41 cards in the main over 40? And what is their drive to be good at slamming delicate cardboard on a tablecloth? Time's ticking and we only got 15 minutes. Welcome to Game 3. Quick introduction to our first guest, Gabriel Netz. Gabriel is a Brazilian living in the UK playing under the Disciples, and in the last couple of years, Gabriel has pushed himself deep into top cuts, his latest achievements being both top 8 at YCS Dortmund and the European Championship, alongside a top 16 at YCS Cancun. I sat down with him mostly to get his thoughts on Tearlaments format and the Tearlaments deck in general, but don't worry folks, we got some extra nuggets of knowledge for y'all. Well, first things first, congratulations on your top 8 at Dortmund, playing the best deck, of course.
Oh, thank you. Oh yeah, I'm playing Tier again. It's crazy, right? It's been a year, and it's the same thing.
It's the funniest thing because I'm making my video on Tearlaments, and I thought, okay, you made top 8 at YCS Pasadena. Now you did it again nearly a year later with the same deck, and I thought that was just hilarious. Like in the past, I think most people in the community, what do you think they know you most for in terms of like you as a competitive player?
Dragons, I guess. I've always been the Dragoling guy, or like the degenerate combo pile guy. Kind of like the two like main things, I guess.
Yeah.
And online Yu-Gi-Oh! It's like they're the things I hear about.
What makes it so you can't just like show up with like a normal linear deck? Why can't you just like normal summon Nimble Beaver or special summon Unicorn or
That's boring as that's like take the enjoyment out of the game. I don't know, like I like doing different things. I like finding things that other people don't find. I think that's like what I enjoy about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like there's such a big card pool and there's always something else to find that no one else has found yet.
Why do you enjoy non-linear decks in particular?
I think it's like I just like complex games. Like, I think I'm better than most people. So the more complex a game is, the better, the more chance I have to do that, right? Like, if a game only has like 3 decisions, my opponent, who's I don't know, can be like slightly worse than me, he's more likely to make that correct. By playing on linear decks, you expand the array of decisions. They have multiple places they can do things wrong. They have multiple places that I can do things right. I get an advantage from that. And it's just more fun. I don't know. I think it's an enjoyment thing. Like I only dedicate myself to play if I'm enjoying it, and I enjoy doing complex things.
That does that affect you at all? Does exhaustion play a real part?
100%. 100%. I think sure, this event was fine, but it's just like most European events nowadays is a marathon. You start at 9 a.m. and you're finishing at like 11 p.m. So there's a lot of fatigue involved. And when playing a more complex deck, your games go longer. At least with Tier, you get a lot of insta wins, because there's a lot of games like you just combo and you just win, right? Like you don't have to do everything perfectly to win every game. But I think like I was playing Go Second Pearly a couple of weeks ago for Vancouver and Brazil. Yeah, for Cancun as well. I played like Go First Pearly, so Interior was slightly less stressful. But it's just like those games just dragged on, and because it was a blind second deck, I felt exhausted at the end of the day because I had to fight for every win. There's no game that I won by just like normal summoning a guy, they have no response, I insta win. Every game was a fight.
But that's the fun of Yu-Gi-Oh! Woohoo!
I guess it is, yeah.
So, I mean, okay, going into let's like take the time machine back. You know, we're playing a non-linear deck, but when we go into YCS Pasadena, everyone's playing the non-linear deck. In the very beginning of Tearlaments format, you know, you placed top 8. What do you think gave yourself the advantage in that kind of non-linear tournament?
So that's a very interesting one because it was basically the tournament was the release weekend of Shizu cards. But so everyone knew they was the best deck, but no one had anything to copy. So you saw people just making deck building mistakes. And I think one thing we did, because I think our list was the best deck in the last list in the room for Pasadena. I got a paid with it, Sam got top 16, and Marcus was 34th after Swiss. And we had like 2 more people bubble with the same cards. And I think the reason we did it is that we streamlined deck building and we understood what were the win conditions of the mirror. Because at the end of the day, the one matchup that mattered was the mirror, and we realized that Mystic Mine was the best way to win the mirror. So that's what we did.
Rest in peace, Mystic Mine. Throughout like tier format, what do you think made the mirror match exceptionally skillful?
There's so many decision points, right? Like, and I think one of the key things about the mirror is that like, you have this big choice of do you mill, do you not mill, and you also have the things of like a lot of the lines that are safe lose to specific things. So, for example, a lot of the lines that would not choose not to mill, you'd make like Kitkal's Dweller, but then you can risk losing to a Cowback bouncing your Dweller. And when you started milling wars, I felt like I was very favored because I felt that I could understand the win conditions better than my opponent, especially during week 1. Like one of the ways you won the mirror match was by summoning Mud Dragon in your opponent's turn, so they couldn't target their Kitkalas and they can't remove your Mud Dragon, and your Mud Dragon's half a Dweller. But people didn't know that at day 1. So people were just making the wildest shit when they milled you, like when they Harvest on your turn, for example. They just made this Ophelia, they just like Kaleido Hearted something. So I think like recognizing win conditions. That's the game.
Against a good player, what do you think would be the most dangerous card that a person could open against you in the mirror match?
Harvest. I mean, so the thing like there's 2 Bestials, right? Because one Bestial didn't matter, but 2 really did that format. So if you only draw like 1 Driftstorm, it doesn't do anything. But if you draw Driftstorm plus Magma Mud, it does a lot. But one singular card, I think Hoven is the hardest one, because when they Hoven is you, they have a good chance of making Mud, and then once they make Mud Dragon, it's very complicated, because you gotta figure out, like, okay, how do I set up my Dweller and prevent his Dweller in the fact back? Because that's basically what the mirror gravitated around.
So kind of moving past, like, tier format and all of that, the deck got, nuked, may I say. I mean, I think it was just a Rise Heart, but what kind of kept the deck down? Was it like, I don't really feel like anyone was really trying out Tearlaments after it got nuked.
It's a Rise Heart. I mean, it's like, the deck had the worst cash matchup ever imaginable. So it was very hard to justify playing Tier. I played Tier a bit on the format with a Rise Heart. Because there's a time that Runic Life Twin and Runic for High were very prevalent, and Tier was like 90-10 into that matchup. It was like 4 months ago, like around Eros format. And a couple of people play Tier, but it's just hard to bring it for like a 12-round event, because you're gonna get shifted by cash like twice at least.
Yeah.
The term minimum. And then like you have to like, it wasn't worth the trade-off. But now, in a world that you don't get shifted, suddenly, you have so many insta wins when you go first, and you win your games going second with Engine. So deck is just well positioned, and I think it was the best deck for Oracle. Yeah.
What do you think makes? You kind of touched on it a little bit. Well, what do you think makes Tearlaments so good right now? Not to leak any of the goo or anything like that. I don't know.
I think like people were unprepared because think of it this way, right? Like people's reference for Dortmund was whatever they're playing until like 2 weeks ago, because there's barely been time with the new ban list. So the average player has like barely played against the new tier. They don't know the interactions, like they don't know how to play their chain deck into tier, for example. Mm-hmm. So it kind of caught people off guard. And tier is one of those decks that, like, if they don't have enough to stop you going first, you basically FTK them, because your board is so resilient and it has so many layers and generates so much follow-up that it's just like when too many games going first, and going second you have a lot of potential to just rob games as well, because the boards that the people made with Unchained and Pearly, none of them actually had like floodgated tier. And when you don't floodgate tier and you resolve like Yido, suddenly there's like 4 effects and things are getting chain blocked, and there's a whole madness happening, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the format that tier thrives. It's like whenever there's no floodgates and there's just the gates that you can chain block.
Yeah, and then also at some point you mill 10 cards and you mill out your opponent's entire engine, and there's so many strong points of tier right now. It's just so funny.
For example, Pearly is a very funny matchup, right? Because if you look like it in my list, we main deck like 0 Pearly hate, but it doesn't matter, because what do? If you really think about Pearly, they make like a big unaffected Noir. they can't shuffle everything. If you just keep milling and just keep triggering effects, keep triggering like the bonus ones, like the beast, the malicious, the rhinos, the tier cache, the Suliax, and then at some point it just outs it. So yeah.
You just mill the Noir to death. The Noir cannot negate Nagito.
Yeah, exactly. Like they can shuffle a name, but once they shuffle a name, the Perlino can pop the Noir. It's so awkward for Perlin.
I ask most pro players this one question because I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Prizing is never crazy. You know, it's not like we're getting bankrolled. We get a prize card at the end of the event. What keeps you playing a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Over other card games where, I mean, you could probably apply your brilliance there?
Yeah, I got you. My dad asked me this question this week.
Sorry to sound like your dad.
Nah, it's all good. I mean, he has a reasonable point. You have a reasonable point. I think it's just like an enjoyment thing. Like, I really like the complexity of Yu-Gi-Oh! And most of I like the people. Like, for me, it's the act of traveling, it's the act of seeing new places. That's what I love. That's what I love as a person. Like, last month and a half, I went to Brazil, Canada, Mexico, Germany to play, which is wild, right? And it's all of people that I love and that motivate me to keep doing things that I like. So yeah, I don't know. I think like if I had to play a game purely for prizing, it definitely wouldn't be Yu-Gi-Oh! But it wouldn't feel like as genuine. Yu-Gi-Oh! Feels like it's part of my hobby because it's with the people that I like being with.
You've given very similar answers to the people that I've asked. You know, I think it's weird to say, like, despite all the variance that Yu-Gi-Oh! Provides, when you play a good game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think, would you agree that it's one of the best card games when you play a good game?
100%. I had a game, this top 32 of this device, yes, that I felt like I played the best game of my life. It was like you know, like I was exhausted after. I was like, damn, that was good, you know? So yeah, it's so many micro decisions, so many steps you can do things differently. Even when you think you did everything right, you didn't. And there's time, and there's like this lack of knowledge because you don't know what they played. There's so many decisions. Whenever I play something that's simpler, like Pokemon, like there's not enough things to do. I find like I think like my hands are tied too often.
I had this same thing. I started playing Lorcana for content, and I just felt like I was just playing the cards in my hand, turning things sideways, and then winning the game. It just didn't feel tangible. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you have to work more for your win.
Yeah, and I think also, other than just the playing aspect, there's also the deck building part. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game with like 12,000 cards or whatever the hell we have now, with no rotation. Every time a new card gets released, there's an opportunity to find something that interacts with it that no one thought about. While with games that are like smaller sets, like you only have a limited amount of card pool, so you kind of know. But like, imagine, I think, for example, people playing Marionette Might for Unchained is the funniest thing ever. It's so cool. Or when they find like a combo with like, I don't know, try to find an example. Like Beast of the Pharaoh had a thing like a couple years ago. Like just an old ass card that suddenly breaks with this new interaction. I think that's so nice, and being able to find things like that.
Or like Dark Hole being a relevant board breaker. So
Book of Moon's like one of the most relevant cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Nowadays, and it's a card printed like 20 years ago.
It's been good in like half of every single Yu-Gi-Oh! Format since it's been printed. I guess with that being said, do you have any shout-outs?
Yeah, so for everyone watching this, we have our YouTube at the Disciples TCG. I also need to shout out, as always, the Brotherhood Games for sponsoring us and allowing all this madness to happen. If you like what you heard, you can always check more of my bullshit on my Twitter. It's at Gabriel Netz. And yeah, I think that's mainly it.